Hey there, welcome to Everything's a Project. This is going to be the start of a series. Hopefully it'll be a short run series, but it'll be effing fix-ups. So this is the transfer case that I had cut in the background. As of this filming, I haven't posted it yet. But it was a great, easy job. This thing's nice and flat, sits right on the mill table, indexed it in, cut it. Customer provided the dimension. Unfortunately, what they measured was a mating part that had clearance. So when I got done with it, and we checked the bearing just falls through. And at that time, they weren't sure. Anyways, I go, well, when you took them out, you had to tap them out, right? And that was the answer, yes. So I had lost some sleep over it. I called them up. I said, bring it down. And there's a few options to save it. So I don't have any internal knurling. I've never done anything like that. But what I have done in the past was to hand stake, mostly for pins, to tighten them up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hammer, and with a punch I'm going to do a series of depressions in here, and every time I make a depression I make a high spot. I haven't measured it again, but it's about 6 thousandths to make up. So the other thing that is a consideration is when I start doing that, A, the part's probably going to want to move, and B, I will not be able to indicate this hole anymore. So what I've done so far is I love using gauge pins. So I use the gauge pin that goes into this boss here. So I first pick that up. I just put the gauge pin right in I have a 5/8 chuck. Put it in there. That's my 0, 0. So I document that. I just write it on the mill vise. Then what I did is I picked up this hole here, and with the indicator, and I marked those locations down. So now we'll indicate this hole, the oversized hole that I've cut previously. And I was just going to go over how I do that. So gonna move it just a little bit. So what I do first, so there's a couple things. You can go ahead and put a edge finder in here, and that makes it faster, bang 4 points, and then indicate it into, in my case, I usually get it within a tooth thou with the edge finder. But in the long run, if you can master just using the indicator, then you're steps ahead. I'm in transition from that. Sometimes I do it real quick, sometimes I don't. So the first thing is to get the indicator close and do a sweep above don't be in the hole, just go above and visually look at how the tip of the indicator is along this opening. So it's just about at the edge here, and I notice that it's further away from there. So I just make a little bit of an adjustment and then kind of do Y. I usually do my X's first is my primary, usually the one facing me. So it's pretty close now, so I'll drop it into the hole. And again, this indicator, this is the way to go with the dial facing up, so that way you can see all the way around. You don't have to use a mirror. You don't have to fight it. So it's at 0, and the other thing these indicators have is one half of the readings there's a black mark a black inner ring, and on the other side is a plain inner ring. And that just helps you keep track of if you're going heavier on the needle or the stylus or lighter. So it's set at 0 right now. So now I'm going to rotate it. So it's coming off. So right now it's not touching. You could make an adjustment, but usually I dedicate to doing the Y first. I might have said X earlier, but I do this direction first. Okay, so we're still off of the part. So make an adjustment, move the Y towards me, come back. So now we're not touching on either side. So we're getting pretty close. The other thing I do, this is a 1/4 inch ejector pin, stainless steel, and they're great for this. They're hardened stainless, and they stay straight. They give you a little bit of leverage. They give you more reach. Much better than the rods that come with the Indicall set. Several years ago, I was in a lab that did machining as collateral tasking, and we did jet engine parts, and sometimes what they would have to do is come underneath. So I made a whole series of these and bought extra Indicalls for elbows so that you could actually indicate up and underneath the part. That worked out great. These rods work so good for it. They're inexpensive. Get them off like MSC, and then you can cut them to different lengths and stuff like that. They're also great for the vise stop because you leave the head on it, and that way you can grab an edge of something, or you can push on the face. So you can, they're a little more versatile, but they're kind of, I like them. Okay, so we're at 0 there. And we're hitting on 15, so we're going to split that for 7.5. Let's see, so that's 7. And bring it back all the way around, back to the beginning. 0, the indicator. Sweep it again. So we're a 1/2 thou off. Now come to X. And now once you've done your Y, you just bring your X's to 0. You don't have to split the difference unless it's out of round. And sometimes that'll happen in a vise. It'll squeeze and distort the part a little bit. And if it doesn't matter too much, then your X will be 0, 0, and maybe your Y's will be 1 thou, 1.5 thou, because the part went out of round. So 0, 0, 0. Okay, so now we're going to write that number down. So I've already written those first 2 positions down. So we're negative 7 inch, 8, 55. And then that's for X, and Y is negative 4 inch, 228. Okay, so we got our positions. Then I just park the indicator up under on the arm for the DRO, so it's handy. Okay. This is the boring head, still set up from when I cut it. I just cut it over the weekend. Just gotta find that key. Come on, baby. And bring the table up a little bit. So I have the 2 hold downs also, and I put pennies under there. You can use brass or copper. This is cast iron. If it was aluminum, you have to be a little more ginger with it. Yeah, so we're all indicated in. This is, it's the same. So we've got the bearings over here. So this is the original location, and they used to be the same. So you can see that didn't drop in. This is the new bearing. It's got a retaining ring on it, but it won't handle the load that it's supposed to. Essentially the bearing will be floating, and this is going into a transplant. I forgot what the combination is, but so there's aluminum adapter plate, so all the load is going to be on that, and it won't hold up. Okay, so get out the mics. We'll get everything figured out. So what were we? 3, 2, 3, 4. So we're 3-inch 545. 3-inch 545. Make a note of that. Just gonna spot check that. Actually, I should have wrote it in here, huh? 3.545. Get a little lower reading. Yeah, 3-inch 545 didn't sound familiar, but so it's a little less. Yeah, 3-inch 542. That sounds more familiar. Okay. 542. That's where we're at. So I'm just going to do here is spot check what they're using for press. So we're at 3-inch 147, 48. 3-inch 148. Check that again. Three-inch 148. So that's the number we'll write. Then we'll just take a quick reading with a telescoping. They call them telescoping mics, but you gotta mic it after. I do have bore mics, but I'll be honest, I haven't used them. I do pretty good with these. I have 2 sets. The one at work is seems to be a better quality set. These are in a fancy pouch, but they're not labeled as Starretts. The other ones are UASAs, I think. So what did we say? 3. So just get a good The trick is to not compress the plungers when you're tightening the lock. I used to hold them way down here because my hands are kind of short fingers, pudgy but short. But holding up here, you get a better grip to keep it from rotating. So that was a good bite. So I had drag coming out. Oops, that's not the one I want to measure. I want to measure that one because I want to know what press they were working with. Yeah, that was good. Good bite. So let's see if we get a good reading the first time. The bearing was 3-inch 148. Three-inch 151. So that's indicating 3 thousandths. I think we can do 3 thousandths. Seems a little bit much to me, but with it staked, I think doing something like 3 is a little better anyways. The staking will want to give a little more than a solid bore. So then what I want to do is, I'll write this one more time just in case. 3-inch .542 is our big bearing. So we want to go 3-inch 539. And this is still set. So Allen wrenches. So it's not even scratching. So I'm gonna adjust it out first till it touches. So I just the center one is the lock. The other two are just to keep tension on the gibs. So I'm just going to bring it out till it touches. It shouldn't be much. Yeah. Okay. So that was a touch. So it's reading at 95, but there's backlash. So with the backlash out, it's at 10. I'm going to go 5. Now that's diameter. So I'm going to see if I can read it with shim. Because I only have one more attempt really. And if I don't get it this time, then it's going to get into a bushing of some sort. And we already opened up that hole pretty considerably. Now we're running out of room with the bolt holes. So I have the shim stock here. So if we were shooting for 3 diameter, here's a 2. That's kind of promising. So here's 1.5 thou. So 1.5 thou is good. It's not passing. Good catch. Okay, these should be 1 thou. They're a little beat up. So it's a little tight. We'll back it off a little more. So technically it should be like 2 more thou backed off, which should pick me up 1 thou on the side, per side. It's really not there yet. So I did 2 more thou. Tell you what, I hope this is a popular transfer case. If I F it up. Oh, you know what? I'm going the wrong direction. That would do it. Yeah. Okay. So I had to go back. That's why it didn't clear. Remember everybody, this is live action. It's not going to be edited. Can't even figure out how to use one of the editing programs for these videos. It's giving me flashbacks to the 1990s. I'm actually it was a really good amateur digital artist. And I remember getting Adobe. I couldn't figure out how to use that. And then I went to Corel Draw. 2 seconds I was making stuff. And I ended up making the squadron logo for the Navy squadron I was in, I did all kinds of Navy graphics. This was in the mid 90s when computer graphics were just starting out. I'd do Christmas cards or other, like Father's Day cards. I remember on the ship, we went into port into Sydney. I took a picture of the Opera House and then made copies of it because I brought my entire computer system. You know, it was a desktop back then with printers and a scanner, and then I would overlay them onto cards, and the guys would send them home. That's been back when it was all guys on a ship. Almost all guys. Our carrier group was still all male. We're on an older ship. I was on the USS Constellation, which unfortunately got chopped up. I do have a chunk of the deck, which is nice. Okay, so what I did was I got a good feel for 1.5 thou shim. And I'm a liar, because now we're rubbing there. You know what? I'm going to check all around because now I'm getting a rub over here. This is about the first time I've really used these shims for like this. You know, this is one of those things I bought off of a tool lot. You know, eventually I'll need it. And I've used them to shim parts and stuff, but it's nice. It's a full set. Goes from 1 thou up to 25 thou with a, well, I guess 1.5 thou is only 1/2 thou. So that's a 2 there. Interesting. Did our table move? 7/855. Yeah, you know what? It moved 1 thou. 4228. Get out of the hole there. Four, 228 and 7/855. Less of a rub. Now I see why people only watch for less than 4 minutes on these videos. But if you're like me, usually have the TV, YouTube going in the background while I'm working in the shop, and I just let it run. I pick up info here and there. So I am going to add a little more clearance over here. Okay, so no rub right now. 1.5 thou shim. Of course, it's not going to go there because I just cleared up. It's tight there. When I was in the Navy, I had a supervisor that would always say, "It's not the space shuttle," till one of the wings fell off. Not in flight, of course, but so I always think of that. Unfortunately, he passed away. Let's see. So we need to back this off. Getting a good shot of my bald head. Like I said, the camera adds 50 pounds and takes away 50% of your hair. Then it makes your work twice as hard. So at my day job, it's a one-man shop, so I'm there too, so I get used to talking to myself. So you guys are my victims now. Oh. So I've only been doing machining as a full-time job for about a year and a half. When I got out of the Army, I was in the Navy and the Army. I was in the Navy in the 90s, was out for 11 years. Thought I'd go back in, and didn't know I ended up in the Afghan surge. So I was an airplane mechanic in the Navy, but prior service during the Afghan surge was infantry only. So that's how I ended up in the infantry. I wasn't really a gun guy before that, but I could understand the mechanicals. I kind of sucked as an infantry guy. But I ended up becoming the unit armorer after the deployment. And that was more my thing. I was good at working the guns and taking them apart, fixing them to the level that I could. We were the unit level. I was really good at organizing the arms room. It was a Vietnam era arms room, but they doubled all the weapons we had, and I was the only one that figured it out, how to fit everything in there properly with everything redundantly locked up. And so I was the best armorer of the entire 101st Airborne Division. I may say so myself. Okay, so we're doing good now. We got it where we want. We did have to make some adjustments. So now we are 7, 8, 5, 6. That one I could change using it. And 4, 2, 2, 6, 5. Okay, I feel pretty good about that. So that's given us 1.5 thou all the way around. So 3 thousandths diameter press, which emulates the other hole. I started talking. So how I got into machining was that after I got out of the Army, I was still under the impression in my 40s, you can do anything you want. You're a smart guy. So I was wanted to be an electrical engineer. And then this weird thing called math got in the frickin' way. Did fine on everything else. I take a math class over the summer and I crash and burn. So I put out an ad on Craigslist saying, hey, I can do just about anything, blah, blah, blah. So I get contacted by a tool and die shop with a bug up their ass. We're a global company, woo! So what that meant to them is the shop supervisor would estimate how much it would take to make a mold, and then the owner would send it to China to have it made, and then they come back all screwed up and have to get reworked. So anyways, I was supposed to be there for a month and cleaning up the green cosmoline type junk off the Chinese molds. But I ended up staying there. I think it was like a year and a half. Supervisor was great. Learned all kinds of stuff from him. That was really the first time I was dedicated to machining. I helped run CNCs, just changing parts, but I learned the fundamentals from him. And so anywho, that was my first foray. But then I got hooked up with a headhunter, and they got me into engineering test as a test technician. And so I did that for a few years. And then when COVID hit, I had been working in it's a big company, and I've been in a couple of different departments of theirs, and I was working in one of their departments, and we had a knee mill that had the mill power CNC on it, and I really liked it. We'd only do odds and ends here. We didn't do production. We did 3D printing is what we did, metal printing. And so when COVID hit, I'm like, you know what? Let me try to have something as a fail-safe. So I found a machine similar, older, and I bought it. That's the first machine. That's the one that's apart right now. Anyways, so a little later on, I'm like, oh, I kind of like this. So I found a small machine shop and I bought it, and then I brought it into the garage. So that's where the mill came from, the grinder. It was a different lathe, and tons of tooling. The guy, 40 years in the business. I got things, I'll have enough tools for the rest of my life. So I was bragging about it at work in my technician role. Well, they had the one-man manual shop, and it was time for him to retire. So he retired, and I essentially got a call, come get the keys. And so I took it over almost cold turkey. He wasn't too busy when just before I took it over. But once I took it over, COVID let up, and all these programs that were suppressed during COVID took off, and it got extremely busy. And was hoping they would invest in the room. Right now it's just 2 Bridgeports and 2 manual lathes, and that's it. No grinders, no CNC of any kind. But they're giving me the work that requires that stuff, but they won't update it. Getting kind of aggravating. So anyways, I have other resources within the company, so I've turned into outsourcing everything within the company, almost everything. So wire EDM work, water jet work, more complicated machining goes to the CNCs and stuff like that. Okay, so I'm happy with where we're at. So I'm going to start staking it. And essentially it's just going to be this series of punches. So it's going to be tedious. I'm going to try to... It's going to be a pain in the ass. You know, everything's a project around this place. I do have a holder. Hang on, if it's handy, I'll use that. I haven't used that in years. I'm all right. Now, that's too bad, because I do have a punch holder, which kind of helps for this kind of stuff. But I haven't used it in years, and I don't know where it's at the moment. So let's see how this goes. So, and I don't want to be too close to the top edge or the bottom edge. It's like a 1/2 inch area. And I do have to give it a good whack because I need to make a good impression. So since I got all my zeros written down, let's make my life easier. Still in view. Okay, Yeah, now I don't have to worry about whacking my beautiful quill. So I'll just get this going a little bit, then I'll pause the video. So right now the reason why the videos are... That's pretty good. Right now the videos are multi videos per subject because I haven't figured out how to splice them together. I thought it would be easy, and I didn't want to spend too much time, but I want them to be halfway decent, and didn't want to get into lots of editing, but so I'll show you what I did. This is the idea. Let me see how it shows up on the camera. Yeah, you can see it. So I'll just do that, and then I'll run the cutter. I'll put it back to all the zeros and check that it's in the right place. Then I'll run the cutter through there and see if it ends up some good numbers. So as you can see, this is going to take a while, so we'll see you later on. Thanks a lot.